I always joked that my sister would be the death of me, but I never expected her to try to kill my birthday first. My name is David Foster, and this morning, I turned 28. I had spent weeks planning a small birthday brunch at my favorite cafe downtown. Nothing extravagant, just a quiet celebration with family. The kind of get-together where everyone shows up, pretends to enjoy the food, and maybe acts like they like each other for an hour or two. I should have known better. The first sign of trouble came just as I was setting down my coffee. A piercing scream split through the cafe air. "David pushed me!" Ivy cried out dramatically, sprawled across the tile like a tragic ballet dancer. She was clutching her ankle like she'd been taken down by a bear, when in reality, she'd tripped over her own heels. "I didn't even touch her," I said, but my voice came out too quiet, too defensive. Our mom was already on her knees beside Ivy, fussing over her like she was still 5 years old, not 30. "How could you be so careless?" she hissed at me. "You know Ivy has sensitive ankles from her dancing days," she added. Sensitive ankles? Dancing days? She took 3 months of ballet when she was 12. But in Ivy's world, those few weeks were apparently enough to qualify as a lifelong ballerina. Our father barely looked up from his phone. "Girls, please. Not today." The same phrase he'd muttered for the past 28 years any time Ivy caused a scene. Neutrality was his specialty. A waitress rushed over with an ice pack. Ivy accepted it like a queen accepting a crown. Eyes wide, lips trembling, mascara perfectly positioned to run just enough. "I just wanted to give my baby brother a birthday hug," Ivy whimpered. "I didn't expect him to get so aggressive." "That's not what happened." I started to protest, but a hand squeezed mine under the table. I looked over. Grandma Mabel. Her gaze met mine, calm, firm, and full of understanding. "Perhaps we should order," she said, her voice steady enough to redirect the whole table's attention. "I hear the blueberry pancakes here are divine." But the damage had been done. My carefully planned brunch had already turned into the Ivy show, as usual. Mom hovered over her favorite child like a nursemaid. Dad retreated even deeper into his screen. The gifts I'd seen them carrying earlier, still sitting unopened in their bags, forgotten in the drama. Noah, my best friend from college, leaned in. He had driven 2 hours just to be there. "Want me to accidentally spill my mimosa on her white dress?" he whispered. I smirked. "Don't tempt me." As we finally ordered, I noticed Ivy watching me again. Her eyes held that familiar sparkle, the one that always flashed when she'd successfully redirected every ounce of attention her way. But there was something else, too. A flicker of something more desperate. Her eyes kept bouncing between me and our parents, like she was measuring something. Then came her next move. "Oh!" Ivy exclaimed suddenly, loud enough to make the table jump. "I almost forgot. I have some exciting news." I knew what was coming. That tone, that glint in her eye, it was never good for me. "I had lunch with Ethan yesterday." My stomach dropped. "Ethan?" I asked. "My fiancé Ethan," I clarified, though I already knew the answer. She twirled her hair like a little girl playing innocent. He was so sweet. We talked for hours about the wedding. He had some concerns he wanted to discuss. My head spun. Ethan hadn't mentioned anything about lunch with Ivy. In fact, he told me he was working late. "What kind of concerns?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Oh, you know, wedding stuff," she said, brushing it off. "But don't worry about it today. It's your birthday after all." She smiled sweetly, a cat who'd cornered her prey. Around the table, conversation started back up. Awkward, forced. But my ears were ringing. Mabel squeezed my hand again. I barely noticed. All I could think about was Ethan and Ivy, and all the things that suddenly didn't add up. "Happy birthday to me." Christmas came quickly. At the Hale house, the holiday always felt like a staged performance. Lights, music, smiles, and Ivy as the star. This year was no different, except now I carried the weight of Ethan's secret lunch with my sister like an anchor. I hadn't confronted him yet. Some gut instinct held me back, like when you see a snake across your path, an instinct tells you not to move. "David, darling," my mother called from the kitchen, "could you help us with the cookies?" By us, she meant herself and Ivy, already elbow-deep in flour and wearing matching festive aprons. "Actually," I said, "I still need to wrap some gifts." Her face fell slightly. "Oh, well, Ivy and I have it covered then." Of course they did. I retreated to the guest room. My childhood bedroom was long gone, converted into Ivy's meditation space, complete with a yoga mat she never used and crystals she couldn't name. The scent of the lavender candle she always lit during her spiritual phases still clung to the air. A knock on the door made me flinch. "Coming, Grandma," I said, already knowing it was her. Mabel entered with that soft wisdom she always carried. "Still have that sixth sense about me, I see." She noticed the modest stack of wrapped gifts on the bed. "Need help?" "No, I paused, then reached for my phone. "Look at this." I handed it to her. It was an Instagram post I'd stared at for an hour. A photo of Ethan at an upscale restaurant, date stamped from yesterday. In the background, just barely visible, was Ivy's unmistakable red coat slung over a chair. Mabel's eyes narrowed. "Have you talked to him?" I swallowed. "He says he's been working late, Christmas shopping." "That boy never could lie worth a damn," she muttered. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "I was going to wait until tomorrow," she said, "but I think you need this now." Inside was a check, a big one. "Grandma, I can't." "You can, and you will." Her voice was firm. "I've watched you dim your light for years just to keep the peace. But peace at the cost of your soul isn't peace at all." I didn't even have time to respond before Ivy's voice rang out down the hallway. "Present time!" The living room looked like a department store display. Ivy sat by the tree, surrounded by elegantly wrapped boxes in color-coordinated paper. Theatrics, as always. "Mom, Dad, these are for you," she said, handing them each something expensive. My mom unwrapped a designer handbag she'd mentioned wanting for months. Dad got a rare first edition novel he'd always admired. My gifts? A handmade photo album for Mom, a vintage fishing lure for Dad. Suddenly mine felt quaint, childish, out of place. "David's turn," Ivy sang. She handed me a tiny box. Inside, a self-help book, Finding Your Path, A Guide for Lost Souls. "I thought you could use it," she said with faux sweetness, "especially with all the wedding stress." I forced a smile, though I could feel Ethan shifting uncomfortably beside me. "Thanks," I said through gritted teeth. "That's thoughtful." "Oh," Ivy clapped. "That reminds me, Ethan and I were talking about the wedding yesterday. I had the most amazing idea for your centerpieces." Everything froze. My mom's hand stopped halfway to her mouth with a cookie. Dad actually looked up from his book. "Yesterday?" Mom asked carefully. "When were you two talking about centerpieces?" Ivy blinked for a second, just 1 second, before her smile snapped back into place. "Oh, we ran into each other downtown. Pure coincidence, right, Ethan?" But Ethan wasn't looking at anyone. His eyes were locked on his phone, face pale. That's when my phone buzzed. "Noah, call me now. You need to see something." I stood up, letting the self-help book fall to the floor. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the wildfire in my chest. "I need to take this call." As I left the room, I caught Mabel's eyes again. Whatever Noah had discovered, I knew it was time. Time to stop dimming my light. Time to start fighting for the truth. I shut the guest bathroom door behind me and locked it. The world outside felt like a trap. Inside, I was shaking. "David?" Noah's voice came through the phone, his usual sarcasm gone. "You need to hear this." "Tell me." "I have a friend who works at the Rosewood Hotel. She says Ethan's been making multiple reservations there, different rooms, over the past few months." I froze. "And?" "She didn't want to say too much at first, but I pushed. Turns out he's not alone during these visits. He's been showing up with a woman, long red hair. Sound familiar?" I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Ivy's most celebrated feature, praised endlessly by our mother, was her deep copper red hair. "It's her," I said quietly. "There's more," Noah said. "Ethan tipped the staff to not record his name with hers, but someone leaked a photo. I'm sending it now." My phone pinged. I opened the photo. There it was. Ethan, clearly visible at a table in the Rosewood dining room. And sitting beside him, holding his hand across the table, was Ivy. Her signature red coat hung on the back of her chair like a flag marking conquered territory. I leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection stared back at me, haunted, exhausted, but finally seeing. The door creaked open behind me. I didn't even need to turn around. Ivy. She slid into the room like a shadow, her expression dripping concern. "Everything okay, little brother?" Her tone was syrupy sweet, the kind of performance that always fooled Mom and Dad. "You've been gone a while," she added. "People are starting to wonder." I turned around slowly. My heart felt like it might explode, but my voice was calm. "How long have you been sleeping with my fiancé?" Her eyes widened, but only for a moment. Her grip on the doorknob tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said. "Is this about lunch yesterday?" "At the Rosewood Hotel?" A flicker crossed her face, shock, maybe even fear, before she smoothed it over. David, you're being paranoid. That's exactly why I got you that self-help book. You've always had trust issues. Stop, I snapped. Just stop lying. She stared at me for a long moment. Then her lips curled into a strange, dark smile. You want the truth? She asked. Fine, yes, I've been seeing Ethan for months, and you know what? He came to me. I couldn't breathe. He said he was tired of being in my shadow, tired of being known as Ivy's sister's fiancé. You couldn't let me have this one thing, could you? I said, my voice raw. One thing? Her voice rose slightly. You got everything, David. Grandma's attention, Dad's pride when you got into college, Mom's constant worry every time you so much as caught a cold. Poor little David, so brave, so sensitive, so perfect. I took a shaky breath, trying to make sense of it all. I had to fight for every scrap of love in this house, she continued, her voice cracking. You don't know what it's like. Watching you be praised just for existing while I had to stage drama just to be noticed. There was a knock at the door. David? It was Ethan's voice. Your mother's asking for both of you. Dinner's ready. Ivy's expression snapped back to normal, her voice rising like nothing happened. Coming, she called. Then quietly to me she whispered, Don't make a scene. It's Christmas after all. She opened the door. Ethan stood there, eyes flickering between us. He looked like a man caught in the middle of a storm he created. Actually, I said, brushing past them both, I think it's time everyone heard the truth. Ivy grabbed my arm. David, don't! But I was already walking. Down the hallway, down the stairs, into the dining room where Mom was placing the roast on the table. Dad looked up from his phone. Grandma Mabel was watching me with her usual quiet intuition. David, my mom said, what's wrong? I looked from Ethan to Ivy, now frozen in the doorway like ghosts. I looked at my parents, who had spent years choosing peace over truth, and finally at Grandma. She nodded. I have an announcement, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out Mabel's check. I'm going back to school, and I'm going alone. Mom dropped a fork. The roast hit the table with a dull thud. Ivy's breath caught sharply. This wasn't revenge, not yet. But it was something better. Freedom. 3 months into my new college life, I got a text from my mom. Ivy's engaged to Ethan. I deleted it. No response, no energy for that anymore. My tiny studio apartment was quiet, peaceful. Just me, my studies, and silence. No Ivy, no lies, no drama. Another text buzzed in, unknown number. David, it's Ethan, please let me explain. Blocked. The next morning, Noah was waiting outside my lecture hall with coffee and a strange expression. Your sister's engagement announcement is trending locally, he said. There's something else. He handed me his phone. Headline, City to Sell. Historic garden site for luxury condo project. I blinked. That's Grandma's garden, I whispered. Yep, Noah said. The community space she built, taught you to love. Ivy's leading the development project. My coffee cup crumpled in my hand. She's doing it on purpose, I said. She's going after Grandma now, to hurt me. There's a city council meeting tonight, Noah said. Public comments welcome. I can't, I muttered. I've got an exam tomorrow. David, Noah said, voice low and firm. You've been hiding in your books for months. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. Maybe it's time to plant your feet and grow something of your own. That evening, the council chamber was packed. Ivy stood at the podium, radiant and composed. This project will bring jobs, tax revenue, and modern housing, she said. The old garden serves only a few elderly residents. That's not true, I said, standing suddenly. Heads turned. Ivy's smile faltered. That garden serves hundreds of families, I said. It supports food banks. It's used for school programs. It's more than dirt and plants. It's a legacy. Ivy's smile returned, strained but present. David, how lovely to see you. But I'm surprised you'd take time from your studies to comment on a subject you've never worked in. Maybe I haven't worked in politics, I replied, walking toward the podium. But I grew up in that garden. I watched Grandma build it from nothing, while you were busy staging fake injuries and stealing boyfriends. A quiet gasp swept through the room. Ivy's hands trembled on the podium. You're being dramatic, she said. This isn't about Ethan, I said. This is about you trying to destroy something beautiful, just because you can't stand watching something grow that doesn't center you. She snapped. The council will vote next week, and when they do, they'll have everything they need to see this project through. I pulled out a thick folder. Every donation, every volunteer hour, every educational certificate, documented, notarized, and filed. For the first time, Ivy looked genuinely afraid. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my arm. Why can't you just let me win? She whispered. Just once. I looked her in the eye. Because some things are worth fighting for. Grandma Mabel texted me later that night. The seeds of change need strong roots. Come by tomorrow. We have work to do. And I smiled. I was ready. The following day, I met Grandma Mabel on her porch. The air smelled like rosemary and old wood. She looked smaller than I remembered, frailer, like the wind could carry her off if it tried too hard. The hospital called, she said, skipping any kind of greeting. The tests came back, 6 months, maybe less. My breath hitched. No, there must be... David, she said firmly, listen to me. That garden isn't just land. It's community. It's soul. It's everything I've been fighting for. I nodded, throat tight. She reached for a folder and pressed it into my hands. These papers make you the legal guardian of the trust, but Ivy will fight it. Then we won't tell her, I whispered. Grandma's eyes sparkled faintly. Smart boy. That night, my phone buzzed with Ivy's name. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Finally, she chirped. I've been thinking, you should be my maid of honor. I blinked. What? Or whatever the male version is. It's perfect. Show the world we've moved past all that unpleasantness. Mother is so stressed about the family image. You mean the family image you tried to destroy when you stole my fiancé and scheduled your wedding the same day as Grandma's garden festival? Oh, that old thing? She said lightly. David, be reasonable. This is my wedding. Grandma's festival is sweet and all, but let's be honest, how much longer do you think she'll be around? That did it. You really want me there? I asked, voice cold. Of course, she said. We're family. Then I accept. From across the kitchen, Noah stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Mabel? She only nodded slowly, knowingly. After the call ended, I opened the folder again. Inside were trust documents, financial records, and something else, a collection of notes, emails, and annotated screenshots. Proof of Ivy's manipulations, lies, betrayals, all carefully gathered by Grandma over the years. I've spent my life tending gardens, Mabel said quietly, and sometimes to save the whole thing, you have to prune, ruthlessly. I thought of Ivy's voice, Ethan's betrayal, my mother's blind loyalty, 40 years of Grandma's legacy now hanging by a thread. The wedding's in 3 weeks, I murmured. Plenty of time for things to bloom, Mabel replied with a thin smile. Or wilt. That night, I made 2 lists. One for the garden festival, vendors, volunteers, press. One for Ivy's wedding, dress fitting, speeches, damage control. A text from Ethan buzzed on my phone. Thanks for being mature. Ivy was right. You're taking this better than expected. I didn't reply. I just opened my laptop. Press release draft. Historic Garden announces record-breaking festival plans in honor of founders. Let them think I was taking it well. Every gardener knows the most dangerous plants are the ones you don't see coming until they've already taken root. The morning of Ivy's wedding was sunny, the kind of weather that made people believe in fate. I stood in the bridal suite watching Ivy twirl in her expensive white gown. My phone buzzed with a security alert. Greenhouse breach, files missing. Text from Noah. Trust paperwork gone, she got in. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face neutral as Ivy turned toward me. Zip me up, brother dearest. As I zipped the back of her dress, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen. A photo of Grandma's desk, drawer half open, papers visible. Looking for something? I asked. She met my eyes in the mirror, cold and triumphant. Imagine my surprise, she whispered, when I found out my sweet little brother was about to inherit everything. What did you do? I asked. Let's just say certain documents might suggest financial mismanagement on Grandma's part. Poor thing, getting so forgetful. Before I could respond, our mother burst in. Everything has to be perfect today, she said, fluttering with Ivy's veil. David, she turned to me, please tell me you've handled the garden situation. Actually, Ivy chimed in sweetly, I just heard the festival's been canceled. Something about missing permits and, questionable bookkeeping? I grabbed my phone. Dozens of missed calls. News headlines were already circulating. Historic Garden Festival canceled amid financial investigation. I have to go, I said. If you leave now, my mother said, her voice sharp, you're no longer my brother. Family comes first. I froze, hand on the doorknob. That's funny, I said. I don't remember family coming first when Ivy slept with my fiancé, or when she scheduled her wedding to erase Grandma's legacy. David, please, my mother pleaded. Don't be dramatic. Ivy scoffed. Besides, Ethan was never really yours. He just felt sorry for you. We've been together since before he proposed to you. The room went silent. Even our mother looked stunned. What did you just say? I asked, turning around. Oh, come on, Ivy said. All those business trips, late nights. He was with me. The engagement with you was just for appearances, to keep the family happy while we figured things out. I looked at Mom, who was now studying the floor like it held the answers to her guilt. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. You knew, I whispered. Her silence was the confirmation. I left without another word. In the hallway, I ran straight into Ethan. David, wait. Don't. How long? I asked. He didn't speak, so I answered for him. 3 years? He nodded. Our entire relationship, a lie. Outside, reporters had begun gathering at the garden gates. I could see Grandma trying to speak to them, looking fragile under the harsh camera lights. My phone buzzed again. Noah, Grandma collapsed, ambulance en route. I ran. By the time I reached the garden, paramedics were already loading her into the ambulance. As they closed the doors, she looked at me and mouthed something. The seeds. I turned and ran to the greenhouse. Everything was overturned, files scattered. On her desk sat an envelope. Inside were the original trust documents, torn to shreds. A note in Ivy's handwriting. Some plants need pruning. Isn't that what Grandma always said? My phone buzzed one last time. From my father. Your mother's right. Family first. Come back to the wedding. We can fix the garden situation later. I looked at the greenhouse, the shredded legacy, and thought of Mabel in that ambulance. Then I typed my reply. You're right. Family does come first. That's why I'm choosing Grandma. I turned off my phone and started picking up the pieces. 3 days after Ivy's wedding, Grandma Mabel passed away in her sleep. The reading of her will was scheduled for the same morning as the rescheduled Garden Harvest Festival, the event Ivy had tried so hard to erase. I arrived early. The garden was peaceful, fresh dew glistening on the leaves. But as I stepped into the community center, I wasn't surprised to see Ivy already there, wearing designer black morning wear that probably cost more than my rent. Our parents sat beside her. Noah stood behind me like a silent shield. Before we begin, the lawyer said, Mrs. Finch prepared a message. A screen flickered to life. Grandma's face appeared, tired but full of quiet strength. My garden has always been about growth, not just of plants, but of people. Some grow straight and true. Others twist themselves into shapes that block the light. Her gaze on screen seemed to find Ivy directly. To my grandson David, I leave the entire garden trust, on one condition. It must remain a community space, open to all, even those who tried to destroy it. What? Ivy shot to her feet. That's impossible. I have documentation proving she was mentally unfit. Ah, yes, the lawyer replied, pulling out another folder. About those documents. He nodded toward Noah, who stepped forward and handed him a USB stick. Security footage, the lawyer said, of Ivy breaking into the greenhouse, tampering with documents. Ivy's face drained of color. Mom, Dad, you can't let this happen, she said, voice shaking. This was my chance, the development deal. You mean the one you arranged behind Grandma's back? I asked. The deal that would have bulldozed the garden to build your new house with Ethan? Mom gasped. Dad finally looked up from his phone. You don't understand, Ivy said. This was my chance to be someone, to be successful. I'm not just the pretty one or the loud one or the one who needs attention. Her voice cracked. You had everything. Every birthday, every Christmas, it was always the David show. Grandma, Dad, even Ethan. They all loved you more. You stole my fiancé, I said. You lied, for years. Because he was supposed to be mine first, she shouted. He wanted me before he ever knew you. But then you showed up, smart and calm and perfect, so I took him back. Silence. Our mother was crying. Quiet, restrained sobs. Ivy, the lawyer said gently, Mrs. Finch left you something too. The video resumed. Ivy, Grandma said softly, I'm leaving you the truth. You've spent so long chasing the spotlight, you've forgotten how to bloom on your own. The garden will always be open to you, not as an owner, but as someone learning how to grow. Ivy sank into her chair, shaking. There's more, I said, stepping forward. The educational program is expanding. We need a new director. I looked at my sister. Someone who knows how to hold attention, who could inspire others, who might finally find fulfillment in growing something instead of tearing it down. Why would you offer me anything, she whispered, after everything I've done? Because Grandma was right. Gardens aren't just about the strong, they're about second chances. She didn't respond, but as I turned to leave, she stood. I don't deserve it, she said quietly. No, I said, but that's the thing about gardens. You don't have to deserve sunlight to grow, you just have to reach for it. Later that afternoon, the festival was in full bloom. Kids painted pumpkins, elders walked the beds with tears in their eyes, volunteers served homemade soup from Grandma's favorite recipe. I spotted Ivy near the butterfly garden, showing a group of children how to handle caterpillars with care. Her clothes were practical, her red hair tied back, her smile unpracticed, but real. "Do you think she'll change?" Noah asked quietly beside me. I looked over. "I think she already has," I said. 1 year after Grandma's passing, I stood inside the greenhouse, surrounded by morning light and rows of budding blooms. In the corner sat a photo of Grandma, kneeling in the soil, hands dirty, smile wide. "School group's arriving," Noah called from the entrance. He still worked by my side, and these days his smile felt like home. Outside, 20 kids gathered around Ivy, who was kneeling next to a tray of seedlings. "Remember," she said, "strong doesn't mean big. Sometimes the best plants are the ones that bend with the wind instead of snapping in the storm." She caught my eye. I nodded. We weren't best friends. We probably never would be. But we were something better, rooted in truth, not rivalry. "David," a voice called behind me. I turned to see my mother, standing awkwardly by the herb garden. "We were thinking," she said, "maybe Sunday dinners again, if you'd want." I remembered the years I spent shrinking to make space for Ivy's spotlight. "We could do them here," she added, "in the garden, if you're open to that." I nodded. "The garden's always open." She hesitated. "I've been seeing someone, a therapist. She's helping me understand some things." I waited. About choices. About letting one child burn too bright while dimming the other. Before I could respond, a crash echoed from the vegetable patch. A child had knocked over a tray of sprouts. Ivy rushed over, not with dramatics but with calm patience, helping him repot them gently, soothing his tears. Some things can't be fixed, but they can be replanted. With better soil, with better light. "You know," Mom said, "your grandmother always knew you'd be the one to take care of this place." "Not because I was perfect," I said, "but because I understood how to help things grow." Later that night, I found an old notebook of Grandma's behind a pot. Her handwriting danced across the pages. "Gardens teach us patience. They also teach forgiveness. Every plant deserves a chance, even the crooked ones." At the back of the notebook was a letter. "David, by now you know that some betrayals cut deeper than others, but healing comes in unexpected ways. I didn't leave you the garden because you needed it. I left it because it needed you, and because, like me, you know that even the best gardeners still need to grow sometimes. Love, Grandma." I closed the notebook as Noah approached with tea. "The butterfly garden needs expansion," he said, sitting beside me. "Ivy already drew up plans." I laughed. "Of course she did. You know," he added casually, "there's still space by the rose arch." I looked at him. I knew what he meant. Grandma always said it would be a perfect spot for a small wedding someday. This time the thought didn't sting. "Maybe," I said, "but first we've got spring planting to finish." Outside, the garden glowed under fading light. Some plants had withered, some had thrived, and some, like Ivy and me, had been pruned so deeply no one thought we'd grow back. But we did.